Chuck Wilder, CRN. Let's go to Kimberly Dvorak. She's the award-winning National Security and Border Security Investigative Reporter for TV, radio, and the print media. She is the Senior Foreign Policy Advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy. And by the way, she's also a TV correspondent, CW6 News, San Diego, as well as One America News Network. Her website, thekdreport.com. And as I said a moment ago, she should be streaming live now at Facebook, later on YouTube. Hello, Kimberly Dvorak.
Hello there, Chuck. I am streaming live.
You're streaming live or streaming?
Both.
Boy, hey, I am so glad that you came out with this report. It's the poppies, stupid. You know, and I've been talking to people about this, and I saw a big report on Fox News also about the poppies. And it's been pretty obvious, but isn't it amazing how you never hear the word poppies come up when these dignitaries are discussing what's going on in Afghanistan?
Yeah, kind of like we don't want to hear about the drug problem that's at our southern border and crossing across that porous border to, in essence here, poison the American people. This is the same situation. The majority of these poppies are not making their destinations in the U.S. However, they are going throughout Europe and then also through other Asian countries. So this has actually become, slowly but surely, has become a global issue on illegal drugs.
Yeah, and you have here a statement from, do they pronounce it UNODC? I know it's the UNODC executive director, and I figure the way they always do that thing, you know, UNODC says yes.
There you go.
It's high time for the international community and Afghanistan to reprioritize their drug control and to acknowledge that every nation has shared a responsibility for this global problem. And speaking of global problem, did you hear, Kimberly, when some Democrat over here, or a few of them, got together and they said this whole problem with Afghanistan was caused by global warming? And I automatically said, so global warming, so now we know what global warming doesn't kill, and that's poppies, right?
Yeah. Apparently doesn't kill poppies. You know, I think that what we heard with the devastation of the storms that hit the U.S., Tennessee, extraordinarily hard, you know, our hearts and thoughts and prayers go out to the families that lost loved ones there. I believe the number's 22 and counting. And then you look at the situations like that, and the very first thing that's coming out of, you know, the mainstream media is, oh my gosh, this is global warming, this is climate change. These people would not have been in this disastrous situation had we just listened and like lived up to climate change. Well, for the rest of us who actually believe in science, we call this the weather. And if you are going to ignore the weather and put your homes near rivers and things that, you know, get washed down, and you continually do this, like the folks who live along the beach, the same thing. They say at one point the insurance companies say, look, you know, we cannot give you money to rebuild your homes year after year after year because you refuse to move out of that situation. So blaming this on climate change is very wrong. And I think it also kind of, you know, hurts the cause of climate change, because it's really ridiculous to think that the climate is changing and really going out and specifically targeting these areas where poor people are living, because that's the way the climate works.
Yeah. Well, you know, there was this guy, Barry Soetoro, I think was his name. Oh, wait a minute. He changed his name. I got it now. Barack Obama. He really believes in global warming, but he's got to have that fancy house sitting right next to all the water.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and that's a great analogy there, because they're the chief, you know, believers, if you will, of this climate change. And the folks that went to go, you know, celebrate Barack Obama's birthday party like 10 days ago, you know, they weren't wearing masks, they were flying in on private jets. I mean, all of the above. If they were thinking that the world was going to come to an end, like presumably in Texas and New York over the weekend, why are they still flying around in their private jets? It just is insane to go down that road, and very sad for the people who actually have to live through that.
And I'm going to tell you, you know, they must really, really think that we are so stupid to believe that for 20 years it was global warming that caused the Afghanistan war. I mean, come on now, you know, give us a little bit of credit. My goodness.
Not the case.
We'll get into more of we're going to get into more of this excellent report. It's entitled, It's the Poppies, Stupid. All right. CRN Chuck Wilder, Kimberly Dvorak with her latest report, It's the Poppies, Stupid. And, and I don't think a lot of people realize that, and your report really brings it out, that the drug production, and mainly opium and its synthetic derivative heroin, is the large driver of Afghanistan's economy. And the Taliban have been using this to gather and purchase weapons, and they hold influence in order to take over the country.
Yeah.
And the country, you say, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say also with the Taliban, this is where they get 60% of their money on a yearly basis is from the poppies.
Yeah. And now look what they're doing. Besides having, selling this and making all the money, they didn't have to go out and buy a whole bunch of new weapons and automobiles and tanks and stuff like that. Somebody just left them behind for them.
Yeah, and the most disturbing thing, I think, this morning I was watching the presser out of the Pentagon, and the general, the two-star general that they had in there was asked a question about the equipment that was left behind. And stunningly, they don't know. They don't have any idea. They don't have that number. And of course, somebody from logistics over here in the U.S. as well as perhaps over in Europe is going, excuse me, ask me. I know exactly where all these things are. We keep meticulous records as to where all the firearms, tanks, as you said, armored vehicles and those things are. We have that. They just don't want to put it out there because when they have to realize what that number actually is, we're talking billions of dollars. And you look at the size of Afghanistan and the population density being so low there. How could the Americans lose, their Black Hawk helicopters this weekend that they lost? So there's a lot of different munitions that most Americans wouldn't probably know the name of, but those things come with a price tag, and journalists who are looking to investigate into what happened with all of these weapons will be able to easily find where the helicopters and whatnot are held, and then on top, and how much the cost is for us, because we have not done it.
Here's what I heard. Kimberly, here's what I heard on a report over the weekend. And number one, okay, the main military that was there was instructed to try to get these people, rounded up so that we can get them out of there, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
Now, the thing is what I've gotten down is that we have so much stuff up in the air, satellites and stuff.
Yeah.
We know what's going on everywhere.
Yeah.
And these weapons that we have, the tanks and everything else, the jeeps and and a lot of ammunition and stuff like that, was going directly into Palestine. Did I get that right? Yeah. Which is the only nuclear place around there. But
Pakistan,
see, we've got all these satellites up in the air.
You mean Pakistan?
Pakistan.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry.
I had it written down, and how did I get to the Palestine? I think because I was
Pakistan.
reading something about. Never mind. And we've got so much stuff up in the air that where everything is.
Yeah, and then
but
also
for them to say, well, yeah, go ahead.
For them to say that they don't know where it is, that's disingenuous. I mean, there's no question about that.
Yeah.
We know where it is, and we know what the cost is. And some journalists for mainstream media, I have no idea which one, I'm hoping one of them will actually go out and take the time to figure out what that cost is. What I want to address right now is that people are thinking, okay, they have that Black Hawk helicopter, a number of them, and they have these other, armored covered cars, or trucks that can, there are large trucks where they can throw the 50, mil guns on the back of it and wipe out a whole bunch of people in 20 seconds flat. A lot of that equipment has to be maintained, and any, equipment that requires that maintenance is not going to get maintained in Afghanistan. And I talked to several people higher up this weekend alone and asked the question, oh my gosh, do we need to worry that they're going to start some sort of war over there because they launch a missile off of, a weapon that they got from the U.S. government here?
Right.
And the answer was emphatically no, because they don't know how to maintain those. And because of the sand over there, the maintenance required on all of these high-tech vehicles and high-tech, aerial planes and such they won't be able to. So after like 2 months or so, they won't even be able to use them because the sand will have done its work inside of inside the vehicle or the plane or the helicopter that they have captured.
But they don't know how to do the maintenance, right?
No, they don't. They don't, and they won't have the parts. Are they going to ring up the U.S. and say, "Hey, you know what? I've got this helicopter. Yeah, we're missing. We need a few parts so we can." So the question is now: could they presumably go onto a black market? Yeah, they could possibly go to the black market and get some sort of replacement parts. But you have to believe that the U.S. military is going to be monitoring those boards, trying to figure out if somebody's trying to get parts for vehicles and helicopters that the Taliban have stolen. And in essence, I wouldn't even say the Taliban has stolen, because we learned also this morning that basically they gave over Bagram. They left, and they handed it over to the Taliban. There was no firefight to retain Bagram Air Base, which is the highest, tech air base. And then asked this morning again the Pentagon whether they would just go back in and say, "Look, we need our air base back, and we need so we can get more people evacuated out of there." The Pentagon said, "No, we have no plans to do something like that," which tells you that they've given that over to the Taliban, and there's no turning back at this point. So the worry, I think, for Americans are for Americans that are still on the ground. They're essentially behind enemy lines. We're not able to get them out. They're not able to get out. And yet we have other countries going in via helicopters and extracting their people out of the country without waiting for the Taliban to help them out. They're actually out there bringing their people home. Where's America's people like that? Where are our search and rescue people? Where are they? They're nowhere.
Yeah. Is it the other helicopters going in from other countries? Do you think maybe they have this presence that says, "Hey, don't mess with us because we'll fight back"? And maybe the Americans aren't doing that?
I have no idea, but again, you talk to the Pentagon and you talk to state, and there's no rules of engagement. We don't know what we're allowed to do. So presumably, you're flying a helicopter in, and you've got a family of 8 that needs to be picked up. They give you a GPS coordinate. Our people cannot fire upon anybody that's surrounded this family. So if you're there, are you thinking that America's going to come rescue you? Because right now, as it looks, we have the Brits, we have the French, we have the Italians, and a couple others that are going in, extracting their citizens, coming out, getting back to Kabul airport, and then flying out of the country. Why is this not happening to Americans? Because the U.S. government is standing in the way of that. There's only one reason for that not to take place, and they have not said that they're going to send more troops to Afghanistan, and they said they're looking like they're going to try to abide by this August 29th or August 31st, evacuation rate, and it's not going to happen.
Too, that, they're saying we're going to get out of here by August, whatever it is. But, the Taliban actually gave them a time to get out, and it's 9/11.
Yeah. Well,
you've seen that, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That was what Biden really wanted to do. But
kind of a hint.
Yeah, it is a hint. But the thing is, what are they going to do with these Americans that remain behind enemy lines when that August 31st date comes and goes? Because we know that any movement with troops, they have to they've got to listen to their commanders, and if they're not getting the orders to go in and bring Americans safely to the airport so they can come back to the country that basically they were working for on a defense contractor basis, we're telling our people that, look, we're not be able to come out and get you. And we're not going to, and we don't have any intention of trying to get this date extended. We're not bringing in more troops on the, to go out and bring you back to this airport by the 31st of August. It's just that, people are falling into this, what's the U.S. government, what are we good for? I mean, are we going to, in the future, are we going to, go in and let's say the next country is Mali, that we have a whole bunch of people. Are we going to hold our word that we will protect these people, our word is shot, and our word is shot around the globe. So don't, make no mistake of what President Biden and his administration have done. They accused President Trump of doing that every single day when they were running for office. And I'm just going to tell you, this would not happen under Donald Trump. This would not happen under him.
And the first time they, broke their promise that we're not going to, come in and rush in on you and all this stuff, Trump would have just sent another big bomb over there and said, hey, I've showed you before, and it worked.
Yeah.
But
I
don't know. For some reason, Kimberly, I see this administration, and the hardest thing that Biden is working on, or whoever's pulling the strings, is to get in as many immigrants into this country as possible. The way the border is open.
Yeah. And
now, even whenever you see the planes are loaded, and I don't think it was with American workers or people that had worked for Americans, but 800 people on that airplane, and I think it's built to hold something like 200 and something. You probably know exactly.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. It depends on the weight.
People crammed into the.
Yeah, but I mean, they're also saying that the Pentagon's also saying that we have got more than 12,000 people out of the country so far. Okay, but ask the specific. Okay, how many of those were Americans? And they couldn't even tell us how many of those people were Americans. So, we're getting people out of the country, sure. We're getting a whole bunch of them out of the country. I'm not going to dispute that. But we don't know how many Americans they're getting out. And we don't know how many are being left behind. And we know that the August 31st deadline here is coming up. And we do know that today the Taliban said that there would be severe consequences if the United States military was not out of the country by August 31st. So I don't know how they expect to get all of these people out of the country. That's a really good question, and nobody's willing to answer that question. And I just don't understand how the lives of people that worked for the U.S. government in the capacity of helping us get ourselves and navigate the country, and then the U.S. citizens and our green card holders are still there. We're not doing too much to get them out, but if you make it to the southern border, walk right on in. If you have to take an inner tube and get on it and swim on over to get into the United States, no skills to help this country out down the future, forget about it. It's open season, come on in. But if you did something that helped this country over the last 20 years or 5 years or however long you worked for the U.S. government, that when you need us, we're going to say, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to do that. And, it's another thing to keep in mind is Afghanistan is a landlocked country. So there's no getting out nearer the coast and kind of moving down by boat to get to another country. There's none of that. They've got the mountains on one side, so they better get out their climbing gear to see if they can make it over that way, I suppose. And or you have Iran and Pakistan. So, I mean, none of those scenarios for the Americans or any of the Afghan interpreters we're trying to get out is a good way to get out. Their best shot's getting to Kabul, and they're not getting to Kabul.
Yeah, I really keep wondering, because I remember I read the news report where the Taliban had said you have until 9/11, and I thought, boy, what a perfect day to pick it. 9/11, one of their favorite dates in history.
Yeah.
But now it's August 31st, so they actually moved the goalpost up. Apparently.
Well, I mean, it's
Did you ever see that 9/11 report where they said you have until September 11th to get out?
Well, yeah, that is basically what the Biden administration said when he announced months ago that we were getting out of Afghanistan. He said that our final checkout date would be September 11th, and there were a lot of people went, "Ooh, that's really really awkward." I mean, why would somebody choose September 11th? That's that's not something we do. So this is something that he started. And it's gone to August 31st. He made the change. But now, I mean, it takes 2 or 3 days logistically just to get troops out of the ones that are in Afghanistan now. We have just about 6,000. It's going to take 2 or 3 days just to get them out of the country. So that means our getting out of the country date is now going to be like the 29th of August. So now you're looking at a week to get out of Afghanistan. And the people that aren't getting to the airport because of all of the, Taliban-controlled checkpoints, they're starting to panic. And right now you've got congressmen and senators, and you've got the veterans groups all out there, trying to get their people, trying to help people that are writing them and texting them. We tried today. There were 3 checkpoints we couldn't get past, and they're trying to take our passports away, and some of them are getting beat up. And this is information that's coming out. I mean, there's an internet that's operational in Afghanistan. Why aren't we using it? And why aren't we, trying to get our people to, say, okay, we're going to take 100 people at this place. We're going to take 200 people at this place, and then have the equipment over the next successive days to get them to Kabul so we can get them out of the country. I don't know why they're not doing that. I don't know exactly how, search and rescue goes, but I pretty, would think that this is something they could do. And if they can't do this, then we're going to have to be a little worried about our military, because they've lost a lot of faith if they can't do something along this line.
Yeah, and what we haven't got into, and we might do it after the break or touch on it, whatever, is all the natural resources in Afghanistan. A lot of people don't realize some of the stuff they have, and one of the ones is lithium. All right, that's like electric cars, mobile home batteries. So anytime you mention something like the word lithium, I think I got it right.
Yep.
Well, anyway, the Chinese, you'll see their ears go up a little bit, about almost a half an inch, in fact. Anyway, no. They're interested too, but right now, hey, let's just let Biden make a big mess of it, and then we'll walk in probably. I don't know. All right, we're going to be back and wrap things up in just a moment. Kimberly Dvorak and this whole report will be posted later. You can go to thekdreport.com. Everybody's talking. Chuck Wilder, CRN, with Kimberly Dvorak and her latest, It's the Poppies. Yes, and we were talking about they have all this mining and stuff going on there, and it's been going on for a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
But the drug problem?
Yeah, they do. Well, I'd like to talk about the mining just briefly, because I'd like to talk about how many people are actually addicted to drugs inside Afghanistan. So first, there's a couple of copper mines, and there's oil that China is, trying to get the contracts to, and, looking at how China is actually communicating with Taliban right now, it's a pretty good bet that they'll go ahead and award those contracts to China. We spent 20 years there. We built infrastructure, schools, etc., and we'll end up walking away, and it'll cost us trillions of dollars, and none of that will come back to the United States. That's just the first thought. But right now, currently in Afghanistan, the UN's estimated that there's 2 to 2.5 million people who are addicted to heroin inside Afghanistan. You have the Taliban coming on the air this weekend saying that there will not be any more Afghan farmers growing poppy. It's 60% of Taliban's budget for their, fighting season and stuff. I guarantee you that they're not going to, get rid of all of these.
Right.
But with the fact that they're
throw all this money away,
but with the fact is that there's this many people that are addicted to drugs. There's going to be a lot, large, problems for the Taliban to tackle, because these people that are addicted, as you know, they're not going to go to the local rehab facility. Most, probably the way the Talibans take care of this is they just pull out their rifle and they shoot these people, and that's very sad, but that's a very real situation. And again, seeing the Taliban saying that we're not going to be in the poppy business anymore, it's going to end up harming a lot of their own citizens. But I would put money on that they'll stay in it, because that's where they get 60% of the money from it. But again, it's a bigger issue, and then you've got young kids that are addicted to this as well, because they just I guess that's the easiest way out of life in Afghanistan. But those numbers are pretty staggering. 2.5 million people in that country are addicted. It's a small country, so it's devastating.
Yeah. And there are reports, that the drug problem also affected the Afghanistan army that was working with America, because they were saying, man, they couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
That they were high all the time.
Yeah.
And there's one other thing, we don't really have time to get into it too much, but the Taliban saying it's going to let women work because, see, they've had all these jobs. What was it in your report?
Yeah.
Past 20 years, 22% of adult employment rose up. they don't like women working. So
No.
that's probably another. Would you call it a lie or fabrication?
Both. Why not? Let's say both. I think it's both.
I'll tell you.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
the women in that country and the young girls in that country have reason to fear. This is why we need to get people like that out of the country and have them resettle in a country in the Middle East somewhere where they can try to rebuild something and maybe form some sort of semblance of a family. Because right now it's really bad for them, but when the U.S. troops are completely out of the country, it's going to go from bad to extraordinarily worse. Because we know the Taliban does not like women, does not like them working, doesn't want them to go to university, and they will be forced to go back home. And there's going to be so many that have to get out of that country, or they face being arrested and or assassinated. It's very sad, very troubling. There was a way to get out of Afghanistan, as we say. I know this wasn't the way to get out of Afghanistan because I worked on white papers for it, and we could have done so much better here, and we failed everyone.
All right, Kimberly Dvorak, excellent report as usual. I appreciate it. Look forward to our next visit.
Thank you.
All righty, thank you. TheKDReport.com.